Thank you. A very good evening. It's a pleasure to come all the way from Malaysia to Berlin to participate in this conference, meeting the SMEs. Have you heard from the lady? You have already 700 companies, German companies operating in Malaysia, including one of the largest ever investment from the Infineon of 5 billion euros. They have chosen Malaysia with Zeman, with Baus, with a number of known operators, because you have a region, a sub-region, ASEAN, the most peaceful in the world for now, fastest growing economy in the world, having exceptionally important strategic position, very close to Europe and United States, and extremely close to China, Japan, and Korea. So I think for the strategic importance of Malaysia is where we would certainly welcome the German participation, particularly the SMEs. As we mentioned, this is a period of gloom. I was discussing with the Vice Chancellor just now, just before this session, about the pessimism, because we talk about nothing else. Ukraine, Gaza, the conflict between China and the United States, the slow pace of economic development, the post-normal crisis of chaos, of contradictions and complexity. So come to Malaysia and Southeast Asia and ASEAN, because we are very optimistic. When we look at Germany, and I told the Chancellor, the President, Mr. Neimer, Chancellor Scholz, I said, when we, from a distance, look at Germany, we learn a lot. What do we learn? This was a country completely devastated after the Second World War and severely punished to the extent that a complete devastation of your cities, including Berlin. But there was a worst period, very tragic, in modern times. But you emerge as a force. You emerge as a major economic force in the world. People like us look at Germany and say, what is it that they have that make them so confident, so optimistic, so diligent, and so disciplined to bring back that strength, to become a phenomenal force? So when the young professors and scholars I met this morning from Germany, who were naturally very pessimistic, very cynical, I said, yes, thank you very much, but I represent a different view. We look at this country and we learn from it. So the problems that you face now, even when you talk about all these issues of wars and calamities and climate challenge, is small, minor, compared to the problems that our parents, our fathers and mothers had to face immediately after the Second World War. So I represent a very optimistic view of the world. And in our region, because it is peaceful, it is a democratic system, as I said, it has a completely pragmatic policy, very non-aligned, keeping very close relations with the West, and extremely cordial relations with China and the East. So you are welcome, because as I said, post-COVID, we have risen, and our foreign and domestic investments for 2023 is the highest we ever achieved since Malaysia gained its independence in 1957. The German companies' participation in investments have increased in the last year. So You need to ask, why did all these Siemens and Infineon choose Malaysia? And Airbus has a major facility now. It's because it's peaceful. It has clear economic policies to attract investments. And it has a dynamic sort of a relations with all countries, very positive. Although we do express our views strongly on many issues, sometimes a slight difference with Germany, but it does not matter. What is important is in the economic relations, in the political understanding, in working together, we have become great friends. And I think with what I've read and numerous interviews, everybody be asking, you know, is a problem with the United States and China is impacting the world? I said no. We have half a century of these negative vibes about a possible tension within China because of Taiwan, because of the South China Sea. For the last 50 years, there has been this negative perception. But let it remain in the political arena. And in the business community, takes a more realistic position. That as far as we see, and we experience, and we know, in this excellent bilateral relations with China, we have RCEP, which is FTA with China, with Japan, with Korea, and we are, of course, at your service. We will engage, but you need the China market, but you need an important base in Malaysia. We will provide that base for export, as Volkswagen have done with Airbus and many other companies, and of course Infineon and Siemens, to make sure that Malaysia remains to be a hub. Which comes to the next fundamental question. Is the policy attractive? Are we clear on our policies? My answer is yes. In our Madani economic framework, we have energy transition is very clear. We will become in the region a major hub for green technology, for hydrogen, for ammonia. And the hydropower is huge, probably the largest in the region, to the extent that we can export to the new capital in Indonesia undersea cable of hydrogen, from energy from Sarawak, Malaysia to Singapore, undersea cable from Sarawak into Peninsula, which means we have abundant source of energy for our disposal. And green alternative is being in the focus. And therefore, I would insist or appeal to you to understand this, because unfortunately, Europe has been just busy within Europe, but I think economic interest would compel you to look elsewhere. New markets and more economic sort of arrangements that can ensure you succeed in your business enterprise, and together we in Malaysia would benefit too. Malaysia has English-speaking force, of course, and there's also a major advantage. If you ask many of these big German companies, why do you go to Malaysia? Other than peace, clarity of economic policies, is also because of the workforce. English-speaking, disciplined, and well-trained. I admit that probably we need to focus, after looking at the interests and the priorities of the new industries, we need to focus on additional training in IT, in digital transformation, in high-skilled workers through TVET and engineering. Yes, we have to do it, and we will do it in synergy with the companies. So I think that's a certain advantage. I wouldn't bore you with all these details and figures and facts that normally ministries would prepare for me. I just straight to the point that rarely do you have a region working together as one force in ASEAN Rarely you find extremely peaceful region and the most vibrant economically and the fastest growing region in the world, with the advantage of having very strong relations with United States and Europe, and at the same time having equally strong relations with China, Korea and Japan. So I think there's this thrust of my message, other than the splendor and the beauty in the forests and the deep forests and the beautiful beaches and warm water. You can swim any time of the year. There's no winter in Malaysia. So I take this opportunity to introduce you to the country, to the policies, and at the same time to encourage you to have a look and exploit, use the opportunity for the advancement of your companies, SMEs, and Malaysian economic development. Now, I will conclude with just saying this. In the past, from Germany, we have all these giant companies. But to us, in the context of an emerging economy like Malaysia, SME here in Germany are huge. SME in Germany is to us big companies. So that's why I don't mention too much about SME, because to us you are not SME, you are SM big. So I think I would again appeal to you to try and get this understanding and use this facility. I was at the Koban Stiftung this afternoon, and of course I refer to slightly different subject, because sometimes we talk only about differences, where we disagree on Israeli-Palestine conflict, or we disagree because of the differences of religion, etc. But you inherit an intellectual giant, a genius, Goethe, for example. And I introduced my speech today from what Goethe referred to, the need to unite, the convergence of civilizations. Goethe, this German intellectual giant, took pains to read and understand and immerse himself with Hafiz, Shamsuddin Hafiz, who wrote in Persian, and he tried to immerse himself with that sort of understanding that shows so much tolerance and respect. Then I, as a Malaysian, as a Muslim, choose to enormously admire and startled and of course respect Goethe. 400 years before him, Hafiz wrote, so in this Diwan, East-West Diwan, and from that power of Goethe, he influenced many Muslim scholars and thinkers of the world, including the giant philosopher poet Iqbal from the Indian subcontinent, Muhammad Iqbal, who admire and accepted the ideas and ideals and the values and the universalistic outlook of Goethe. Now, what is the relevance? The relevance is the thinking that is absent these days. The convergence of ideas. They need to work together. Europe and Asia, the East and the West, not only in terms of business and economics, but in terms of culture and ideas, and tolerance and respect. Why do we survive in the Southeast Asian nations in ASEAN? We have a multiracial society. In Malaysia, of course, the majority are Muslims, but we have an enormous number of ethnic Chinese, ethnic Indians, Christians, Hindus, Buddhists, working together. Malaysia, in the north is a Buddhist Thailand. In the south is Singapore. In the east is the Christian Philippines. But we work as a team. The differences did not bother us. And this is the spirit of togetherness, the universalistic ideals that we promote that would help us to attain peace in the region and at the same time propel the region, Malaysia and the region, as one of the fastest growing economies in the world. Thank you again.
Thank you so much.